Alright, here we go with adding and subtracting decimals. If you can add and subtract whole numbers carefully, you should be able to do the same with your decimals. So, first thing we're going to do is line up decimal points. And therefore, you're lining up the numbers by place value. If you have a whole number, then you just make sure the ones digit goes in the ones place and so on. You could imagine that there's a decimal point after the whole number if you wanted to still use this idea of lining up decimal points. We're going to place the zeros on the end to make all numbers have the same number of decimal places. That's usually more needed for subtraction than it is addition, but it helps you keep things lined up. And if you think about it, it's like making common denominators. You're turning everything into thousandths, even though one of the numbers used to only go to the tenths. So you're adding thousandths to thousandths, or something like that. And then just like when you're adding with whole numbers, you're going to start adding or subtracting from the right. And you're going to be careful when regrouping or carrying when you're adding, or when you're trading, or sometimes called borrowing, when you need to do subtraction. And then at the end here it says place the decimal point in the answer under the other decimal points. It doesn't have to be done in that order. I know personally I sometimes put that decimal point in my answer right at the beginning so that hopefully I won't forget. So I'm going to scroll up the notes so that we can do the examples that follow. There we go. Yes, no, here we go. Oh, so close and yet so far away. Darn. Can almost fit them all on. That last one I ended up getting squeezed on. So 26.8 or 26 8/10 plus 36.55 or 36 55 hundredths. So 26.8 gets added to 36.55. And again, the suggestion is to put that 0 there. In reality, it's not required for addition as long as things are kept nice and organized. So I'm going to add up 0 plus 5 is 5, 8 plus 5, I don't know if I've told you about my touch counting thing. So 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I carry the 1. I put my decimal point in here right now so I don't forget. I don't usually write it that big, but I put it in. 6 plus 6 is 12, plus 1 more is 13. Carry that 1. 3, 4, 5, 6. So 63.35. And your estimation looks back at the original number. It's about 30 plus 35 or somewhere around there. So it's about 65. That looks about right. Or maybe 25 plus 35 is 60. You know, make sure you're in the right ballpark. If you had your decimal in the wrong place, it would be 633.5 or something like that. You should, by your estimation, know that's way far off. For 40 minus 3.95. So the 0 of the 40 is in the ones place. So therefore the 3 of the 3.95 gets in the ones place as well. Or you can put that 0, the decimal point after that 40 to help you line things up. So you could do that right from the beginning if you prefer. So you'd write 40 and then a decimal point. And then again 3.95. Now in this case we do have to put these zeros on so that we can properly do borrowing. This problem, I remember we specifically put it on the notes because it's a challenge for some people to borrow from a couple neighbors down and have to bring it back to the starting point. So I cannot subtract 5 from 0. You can't just write 5 because it's 5 minus 0 is 5 because we're subtracting the bottom number from the top number. So we look next door and we want to borrow, but we can't. So we look next door to that and we still can't borrow. So we have to go all the way over here to the 40 and trade in one of the 40 for 10 ones. And then we have to bring it all the way back. Trade in one of the ones. We're left with 9 ones for 10 tenths. Trade in one of the tenths for 10 100ths. So that now I can do 10 minus 5 is 5. 9 minus 9 is 0. Again, I put my decimal point in, I'm working. 9 minus 3 is 6. And that 4 turned into a 3. So 36.05. If you look back at your original problem, 40 minus about 4 is going to be around 36. So hopefully we did that all carefully and accurately. The next one, 8.99 plus 1.1. So 8 and 99 hundredths plus 1 and 1/10. Again, putting that 0 in there is gonna help you make sure you have things lined up appropriately. For adding, it's not as crucial, but it's just good practice. 8, 9, 10. 10.09. So make sure you're doing your carries properly. Don't automatically assume if I see a 9 that means I need to carry it over. And then the last one we have here is 43 and 613 thousandths minus 2 and 4 tenths. Again, put those zeros on and make sure you know in what direction you're subtracting. So I'm subtracting 0 from 3. I don't need to borrow. I'm subtracting 0 from 1. I don't need to borrow. Subtracting 4 from 6. I don't need to borrow. Decimal point. Don't forget it. I'm subtracting 2 from 3. I don't need to borrow. And I'm subtracting nothing from 4. I don't need to borrow. 41.213. So that's the gist of it. And now you're going to try some. And I think there's word problems as well.